Hey, welcome back, everybody. So, this is going to be the watch list for Monday, September 22nd. Let's go ahead and start with some of the U.S. economic news that's going to be dropping this week. Monday is going to be interesting because we have a lot of Fed speak. So, during the last FOMC meeting, the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower rates by a 0.25%, and then we have two more 0.25% rate drops baked into the numbers through year end. So it'll be interesting to watch how each of them come out with their narrative as to do they think we should have more rate cuts? Do we think that rates should stay as is? Or directionally, where are we headed? So this can create a little bit of a nuance in the market with overall volatility. So just be aware of that. We have the exact same thing that's going to happen on Tuesday with the Fed Vice Chair that's going to be speaking at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we also have the Atlanta Fed, and then we have Powell speaking. So now Powell is going to be at 12:30. I would do my best, and this is going to be, 9:30 Pacific, to probably be very cognizant of your position size, just based upon the fact of we don't know what he is going to say. And basically, the last rate cut was that this is just a preemptive rate cut, right? They didn't really see any economical data to highly support it, but they felt that they would rather be just safe than sorry. So the numbers to keep an eye on are going to be this S&P U.S. Services, the PMI, right? Inflation data. Wednesday, we're going to go into new home sales. And then Mary Daly's speech will already be after the market closes. And then Thursday, we have a slew of data that's going to be hitting. Everything from inventories, durable good orders, the GDP third quarter estimate, jobless claims, right? And that's what the FOMC is watching really like a hawk right now, is not so much the inflationary concerns, but do we have a slowing job market? Okay, and I talked about this last week. We also have existing home sales, and then we're going to have more Fed governors. And then Friday, we'll wrap up the week again with our inflation numbers, your PCE, the producer consumer index. We're going to have personal spending, personal income, core PCE, and then consumer sentiment. So consumer sentiment has been dropping. It's been dropping a bit because inflation is going up in food. Right? So not necessarily your oil or per se housing, but overall food costs are going higher. And I've even noticed as I'm going out to the restaurants more and more restaurants are reprinting their menus with higher prices, which has been kind of surprising. But let's get into a couple of the charts. Obviously, be aware of the economic news. It's so important as to which way the market will be moving. So SPY, you can see here after the FOMC announcement, they pushed it down right here into demand of 654. And then over the next several days, we bought it up significantly. And we have moved higher to new all-time highs, being on Thursday. We couldn't quite get there on Friday, but the market was overly bullish. Now, do note that when you are trying to short this market, it is very difficult because they keep buying it up. Same thing here. You try to short the market and they are buying it up. We try to short the market, they are buying it right back up. You are just better off to wait for a call trade rather than to try to catch the put trade lower, because if it reverses midstream on you, then you're literally going to get stuck. Okay, so we're seeing consolidation here. I don't like trading this at these all-time highs. We did try to take some trades on OPEX being Friday. The contracts moved absolutely horrifically. And then you could also see QQQ making new all-time highs, pushing into Friday. And then this is in the post market. We'll see how the market opens, but looks like they're targeting this 600 number. And then could we get a pull lower? Again, they did pull it lower back down to the daily gap fill and bought it right back up. So these dips are being bought up quite heavily and quickly. Apple announced the release of their new iPhone on Friday. This stock just absolutely ripped up 3%. So if you're with me in the morning, I said we were watching Apple calls. We got a great retest. No candle close on a 5-minute below our level of 240. Ripped up to 245 and change. All the way up here almost to 246, right? So Apple definitely looking for a pullback at 244 to continue the trend higher. Let's take a look at Amazon. Amazon, very another similar yet bifurcated story, right? They sell it all the way down here to this 228, heavily buy it up, all the way up here to 233. Sell it down to 228, buy it right back up to 233. We got above the 233 level, we pushed higher, but then they couldn't hold this. But do note that we are now getting a higher low on the 1 hour, so I would wait for a pullback to 230 to go long to 233, possibly up to 236. Microsoft was part of last week's watch list where I said watch for a rounding bottom for a breakout to the upside, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened, right? We had a nice drawdown, we had some consolidation, blast higher, come down to 505, buy it up, 505, buy it up, come back down again into this 505 range, buy it up. We are now again rejecting this 518, but if they could get above this 518, I definitely think that we can take this thing back up to 522. Do note we really don't have any sellers above us, so nothing monumental. Ideally, I'd like a pullback to 513 to go long, but if you get above 518.29, you could take it long into 522. So keep an eye on Microsoft. Let's go ahead and take a look at Google. Google becoming another member of the $3 trillion club. This one, I don't have anything that I like on it. I just don't. I mean, it's trading at all-time highs. It's got to get above 256. Can we get a pullback? Yeah, we can, but really we don't know where the ceiling is on this one. So personally, for Google, I'd stay away from it. Tesla has had some nice consolidation here. I think this one will be another one that will make another run higher to the upside. Do note we have a small gap fill below, but it was basing below here, below 350. And then once it was able to break above 350, right, then it's just been up into the $400 range. So similar thing here where you can see what they do is they run it up, okay, in the pre-market and then sell it off. They run it up in the pre-market, sell it off. We'll watch and see, do they run it up in the pre-market, sell it off? But we are making some higher lows, okay? So we are now trending up. I would expect that if this thing can catch momentum, that it could keep going higher to this 439, 450, and up to 456. So when we look at supply and demand, kind of a balanced market here. So this one might take a little bit more patience. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with NVIDIA. NVIDIA, interestingly enough, is more and more expensive, but their overall price to earnings is coming down. So this one, got a lot of momentum on the $5 billion investment in Intel, where Intel spiked up over 30% on the day. I think we still need to get above this 177 number in order to move higher. You can see the consolidation of how they were holding it. Then we lose it and it pushes lower. They did bounce it at the pre-market low. So while you don't see this on my charts quite often, I will watch and see what was happening on the pre-market low, and that's exactly where they bounced it for the day, right? So I wasn't at a price level, but I did have a pre-market liquidity that I can keep an eye on. So just NVIDIA, it's been a great trading stock, right? Because they get up here, we sell it, they get down here, and then they buy it. So that's kind of what we want to look for. Let's look at AMD. AMD obviously struggled on that investment that NVIDIA made in Intel, right? They just sold it off, and this is the retail traders. But if you took the calls down here at 150, I mean, that was a huge winning day for you, right? So they're selling it off pre-market on essentially NVIDIA investing in Intel. But this is the retail traders selling this off, right? This is what I'm going to call as stupid money. This is not smart money, right? When this is all selling off pre-market, it's not institutional investors trimming their position. And then what do? They come in when it's down 4 and 5%, and they step in and they buy it all the way back up. Now we're trading between two levels. So this is where I would be patient. Here's where you can take a fib and say, well, let's see, where are they consolidating? Well, they're consolidating in the golden zone, right? Between the 50 and the 618, which leads me to believe that if we could get above 157.44, that they are going to take this higher. So I'm going to leave this fib on here, and we will watch this tomorrow morning. Palantir, as the market broadens out, they're going into the higher alpha, higher risk stocks. right? And so Palantir was all the way up here at 189, came all the way down to 155, right? People are thinking, that's the end of this. The run is over. And sure enough, right, we get a Fed rate cut on Wednesday, right here. And what did the market do? Literally bought this thing up, and they bought it up hard. So watch for a bounce at 182, going into 184, up to 187. One of the other ones that I'm keeping an eye on this week is going to be Palo Alto Networks. So Palo Alto. So let's look here. We are hitting up against these all-time highs, right? This thing has had another monstrosity run that literally sold off really hard, going back down here to 166. Now we are at 208. But look at this trend line. Super, super strong. What I want to watch for is, are they going to reject this 208.21, or do we get above it, hold it in base for some new all-time highs? Now, they did beat earnings on the last two earnings estimates, which is a good news story. News, right? Got a lot going on with AI and cybersecurity, which is why these stocks are really catching fire. Okay. Just two other ones that I want to look at. Let's look at FedEx. So FedEx had good earnings. They beat, but again, the tariffs and the overall cost pressures that are going to be on them if shipments stop is going to be detrimental. So post-market, right, they run it all the way up. They sold it all the way back down to where it opened on Thursday before earnings, right? They ran this thing hard. This one, again, I think is a possible consolidation within these zones, 229 and 234, for you to either go long or short. And then I would look at the same thing with UPS. They did the identical thing, right? They ran UPS up on FedEx's earnings, and then they brought it lower. This one, I do like if we can get above 84.28 for a bounce to go higher, or if we hold this to see, do we get more weakness throughout this week on the overall economic data to go down to 81.95. And then one last wild card I'll give you is Disney, because it's all over the news with Jimmy Kimmel. I did call out a put trade live on the market open for the 110 puts. And if you grab those 110 puts on Friday at the market open, you should have been able to make a pretty decent buck. Now, looking at this stock again, we'll see how this thing opens again yet on Monday. But we are in a downtrend, okay? So if they don't recapture this 113.41, I definitely think that there's room down to 110. And I believe it, that there is a gap fill all the way down here at 108. So keep an eye on Disney. The bid ask has been wide. That's why I haven't been traded it. But I don't necessarily like this to the upside. But however, if they put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air for whatever reason, don't know that they will, although I do believe that the rationale as to why it was pulled off the air was because of a merger agreement between its largest distributor of the ABC network, and they needed the administration's approval for the merger, right? And so they weren't going to let a merger get in the way of keeping it on the air. So they said, fine, administration, we'll do whatever you want us to do. We'll take it off. Well, that merger was approved. Okay. So now we will see, do they put it back on the air or do they leave it off? So all politics aside, just trade the news, right? Trade what the market is giving you. But I do think that the number of cancelizations for Hulu, Disney, ESPN, the credit cards and everything are going to be significant. So maybe you don't even play this week's put trade. Maybe you play their next earnings, right? Something to think about. Oh, wait, don't go nowhere. I do have a wild card one for you. I just thought of it. OKLO. So, Oklo. This one makes 0 cents. Another meme stock that has literally gone, I believe, from about $5 to $135. Look at this right down here, okay? In March of 2024, let's even fast forward to April of 25, it was an $18 stock. And it's now trading at $135. No earnings, no earnings, no earnings. They beat no earnings. They have earnings coming up again. But they are selling insiders a ton of the shares. So now I'm going to go out probably with some leaps and maybe look at a year out, and I'm going to take some puts. This company makes no money whatsoever, right? I mean, this is just another great example of a meme stock where when the market is getting greedy, they are just piling into anything that has alpha, right? So what is alpha? Alpha are stocks that have high values of movement, price movement without a lot of valuation, right? Nothing to validify it, in my opinion, behind the scenes. So even if I'm looking at, where is this thing? Got to retrace back to at least $85. I mean, this is just stupid nonsense. And I think you're going to see that probably more so come to fruition. The puts are going to be very expensive. People have been, piling into them. But just watch this one. I think that this could be a long-term good put trade because remember, what goes up insanely this way, as did Oracle, right? They don't stay up here because nobody's going to keep stepping in and buying at 135 when the people who were in down here, even at 50 or down here at 24, are going to start taking profits. So keep an eye on that one. Kind of a wild card. Might be something fun to trade. But with that, everybody, have a fantastic week. I will see you all tomorrow morning for live trading at the market open. With that, be well.